If you have ever felt invisible in a room full of powerful people, if you have ever swallowed humiliation just to survive another day, then stay with me for this story, because what happened one quiet afternoon inside a luxury restaurant proves that dignity can shake even the tallest towers of arrogance, and if stories like this remind you that kindness still matters in a world obsessed with status, make sure you subscribe and stay connected for more real journeys of strength and transformation. The restaurant glowed beneath the soft gold of early afternoon sunlight, the kind that filters through tall glass windows and makes everything look more refined than it really is. Crystal glasses chimed gently as servers moved with rehearsed precision between tables dressed in white linen and fresh lily. A pianist in the corner played something slow and elegant, barely louder than the low murmur of wealthy conversation. To most of the guests, it was just another expensive weekday lunch, another meeting between investors, another quiet display of success. But for Sophia Reinhardt, it was not just a shift. It was survival. She stood near the service station adjusting the strap of her apron, steadying hands that had not stopped trembling for days. Lack of sleep had settled beneath her eyes, hidden carefully with minimal makeup. At home, medical invoices were stacked in a drawer she tried not to open too often. Her mother's treatments were ongoing, unpredictable, and far more expensive than anyone had prepared them for. On top of that, her younger sister's university tuition deadline loomed dangerously close. Sophia had once been the one studying at that university. She had once dreamed of becoming a conference interpreter, traveling between cities, translating speeches that shaped policy and connected nations. She loved languages the way some people love music. Words fascinated her, the way a single phrase could build bridges or burn them down. German, French, English, Spanish, she had studied them passionately, collecting vocabulary like treasures. But when her father died suddenly of a stroke, everything changed overnight. Dreams became secondary. Responsibility became urgent. She left her studies quietly, telling herself it was temporary. Temporary had stretched into 3 years of double shifts, aching feet, and polite smiles. Yet even through exhaustion, Sophia carried herself with quiet composure. Not the fragile kind that shatters under pressure, but the steady kind forged by necessity. That afternoon, the glass doors of the restaurant opened with a soft mechanical sigh, and a group of sharply dressed businessmen stepped inside. Their presence shifted the energy immediately. Their suits were tailored to perfection, their watches flashed discreet wealth, and their laughter carried the confident edge of men accustomed to being heard. At the center of them walked Marcus Vogel, a globally recognized venture capitalist, whose face appeared regularly in financial magazines. He was known for bold acquisitions, ruthless negotiations, and an unapologetic belief in his own brilliance. People turned subtly when he entered. Power has gravity. It bends attention toward itself. Sophia noticed him not because of his reputation, but because the hostess assigned his table to her section. She inhaled once, picked up a polished tray of sparkling water and wine glasses, and approached with professional calm. As she poured, she felt their eyes on her, not curious, not appreciative, but assessing. Marcus leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink before speaking in fluent German, clearly assuming no one around the table, especially not the waitress, would understand. He commented on the faint tremor in her hand. He joked that refinement could not be learned by those who grew up without it. He added, with a smirk, that poverty always leaves a mark no matter how well someone dresses. The men around him laughed openly, some glancing at Sophia as though she were part of the entertainment. For a split second, heat rushed to her face. Every word had landed perfectly. German was not foreign noise to her. It was the language she once studied at academic level, the language she had written essays and delivered presentations in, the language that once represented her future. She could have pretended she did not understand. She could have walked away and let the humiliation dissolve quietly, like so many other small insults she had endured over the years. But something inside her rose, not anger, not bitterness, but clarity. She placed the final glass gently on the table. She straightened her posture. Then, in smooth, articulate German that carried both education and restraint, she replied, "True elegance does not come from wealth, and refinement cannot exist without respect. The language you are using to diminish me is one I chose to study because I believed it could connect cultures, not elevate one person above another." The laughter died instantly. The pianist continued playing, but the melody now felt distant. Marcus's smile faltered. He had expected ignorance, not eloquence. Sophia continued, still calm, never raising her voice. Struggle teaches resilience. Service teaches patience. And sometimes the people you overlook are carrying responsibilities heavier than anything money can buy. The table fell silent. A nearby couple stopped mid-conversation. Even the waitstaff seemed to move more slowly, sensing something important unfolding. Sophia finished simply, "I hope your success always leaves room for kindness." And then she stepped away, returning to the service station as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. No dramatic exit. No tears. Just dignity. For the remainder of the meal, Marcus spoke little. His companions avoided meeting his eyes. Something had shifted not just at the table, but in the atmosphere itself. When the bill was ready, Marcus asked to speak with the manager. Sophia felt her pulse quicken. Experience had taught her that power often retaliates. She prepared herself mentally for a complaint, perhaps even termination. In establishments like this, protecting wealthy clients was often prioritized over protecting staff. The manager approached cautiously. Marcus stood instead of sitting, his expression no longer arrogant but thoughtful. He asked Sophia to join them. Every conversation in the room seemed to lower in volume. Marcus cleared his throat, and in German first, and then English, apologized. Not defensively. Not sarcastically. Sincerely, he admitted that arrogance had slowly woven itself into his personality. He confessed that he too had grown up in a modest household, watching his single mother juggle multiple jobs. Somewhere along his climb to success, he had buried that memory under layers of pride. "Today," he said quietly, "you reminded me of who I was before the titles and the interviews." He left a substantial tip not as charity, but as acknowledgement, and left the restaurant in reflective silence. Sophia stood still long after the doors closed behind him. She had not intended to transform anyone. She had only protected her self-respect. Weeks passed. Life returned to its routine rhythm. Then one morning an envelope arrived addressed to her personally. Inside was a handwritten letter from Marcus Vogel. He wrote that their encounter had unsettled him in the best way. He had initiated internal reforms within his company, implementing leadership workshops focused on empathy and ethical communication. He described conversations with his executive team about humility and culture. Then came the unexpected. He had established a scholarship foundation dedicated to students forced to pause their education due to financial hardship. He named it the Reinhardt Grant for Linguistic Excellence. He invited Sophia to resume her studies as its first recipient. Her hands trembled again as she read, but this time from something entirely different: hope. She accepted. Returning to university was both surreal and overwhelming. She balanced classes with part-time work, but the burden felt lighter now, supported by belief instead of desperation. Years later, Sophia Reinhardt stood on a conference stage as a certified international interpreter and keynote speaker at a global business summit focused on ethical leadership. The same type of executives who once overlooked her now listened attentively as she spoke about dignity in service roles and the transformative power of empathy. "Kindness," she told the audience, "is not weakness. It is strength disciplined by compassion. Authority without humility is fragile, but leadership grounded in respect becomes unshakable." In the back row sat Marcus Vogel, no longer the loudest presence in the room, but one of the most attentive. After the session, he approached her quietly and said, "Thank you for correcting me with grace instead of humiliation." Sophia smiled warmly. "Thank you for choosing growth instead of ego." That afternoon long ago had proven something profound. One courageous moment can ripple far beyond its setting. A single response delivered with dignity can awaken conscience. Forgiveness can redirect power toward purpose. As sunlight once again streamed through tall windows, not in a restaurant, but in a university hall filled with graduates, Sophia realized she had never truly been just a waitress. She had been a bridge, a reminder, a quiet force stronger than she knew. And somewhere in a sleek glass office tower, a framed letter rested on a billionaire's desk, not as a symbol of wealth, but as a reminder that success without compassion is hollow. Because true greatness is not measured by how high you rise, but by how gently you treat those still climbing. And if this story reminded you that dignity and kindness still shape the world in powerful ways, don't forget to subscribe and stay with us for more stories that prove humanity's greatest strength is not power, but heart.